Hello. It is a pleasure, as always, to be here. This is B. We would love to start today by settling in a bit with you and inching toward that place of peace within the center of your being. The place within you where you already know that you have no real problems, that no matter how challenging the circumstances are in front of you, you will be guided through them. And as you settle toward that peace, letting anything else that's lingering start to fall off, giving you room to see more of the truth of the circumstances that lie in front of you. So feel free to take a few deep breaths and settle in. What we want to speak about today is this concept of your future self. It's something that lingers within the New Age spiritual circles, and it's something that many people are trying to tap into and to feel. What does my future self feel like, and how can I maneuver my being today, whether it be by healing things or by adding things, to get closer to that future self. And while this idea can be useful in some ways, the thing we want to speak to is how controlled that idea can be, how manipulated that idea can be. And at its worst, chasing your future self is really no different than what every other single person on the planet is doing. They have an idea of who they would like to be, the success they would like to achieve, how they would like to feel in their lives, and they are maneuvering themselves in order to become that person so that they can acquire those things or to experience that thing. The issue here, because you are on Earth, because there is a significant amount of darkness here, is that this future self image is more likely than not actually generated by you. It is an archetypal image. It is a lane, it is a character for you to play that will then achieve a certain degree of results for you. But we did say that this idea of a future self can be helpful. So if we strip aside playing a character to get ahead, or manipulating your own biology or your emotionality or your energetic in order to achieve something, if we take that out for a moment, we can speak of this idea of your future self in a way that is slightly more useful. There is a singular trajectory. There is a single future self, you could say, that is directly from divinity. That is the reason why you came here. That is the truth of who you are as the soul. And that self requires zero compromise. That self, in a way, is you without any compromises. And the path there has nothing to do with manipulating yourself into a pre-existing character, and has everything to do with you witnessing how you were being manipulated into a pre-existing character and simply choosing not to act accordingly. So you may have heard this idea before that spirituality is more of a process of letting go or of shedding than it is acquiring things. But still, within spiritual communities everywhere, individuals are trying to manipulate their own biology to become a person that they actually are not. Sometimes that's playing a character, a more charismatic, put together, professional character in order to achieve more financial abundance. But other times, it's simply playing a spiritual archetype that really has nothing to do with anything other than being spiritual. There are countless people that are simply trying to be spiritual in the way that they understand spirituality, acquiring more crystals, talking more slowly, playing some conscious music around the house, wearing slightly different clothing, all organic cotton, mostly white. But none of the things that make up this archetypal character are actually even reminiscent of true spiritual progress. The only true spiritual progress that is legitimate is becoming your future self as you actually are seen by divinity. Becoming the version of you that you came here initially to play before you even knew what it was like to quote unquote be spiritual or to be successful. So when you hear this term being thrown around, or when you explore your own psyche and you have it come up in various moments, what is my future self calling me into? We want to plant a little pin here that there may be a multitude of future selves available to you. There may not be one future self that's calling you forward. There may be multiple that are calling you in completely different directions. So much of the confusion, the deep inner turmoil, the dark nights of the soul that individuals go through are a tug of war between their future selves, so to speak. And we can draw a clean line down between the middle of these many iterations of who you can become to say that there are many dark iterations of your future self and one that is light. Ultimately, that's how divinity operates. Divinity is constantly calculating the ideal and delivering it to you, trying to constantly bring you closer to the truth of who you actually are, because you only came here for one thing. You only came here to become one thing. That one thing may have a multitude of skills, may break boundaries and cross industries, but it is still you nonetheless. But these many other iterations of possible future selves are not why you're here. They may seem appealing. It may seem as though others would respect you more, and in the short term they may. But truthfully, every single character you pursue, every single archetype you pursue, that is not legitimately you as the soul is nothing but a detour. There's the time it takes to go as far as you will go before you realize it's not the path you want to be on, and there's the time it takes to return to the very moment you're at now. These detours are what makes the spiritual journey so excruciating at times. These detours are what makes the spiritual journey so long, so winding, so treacherous, so confusing. But these detours are also largely unnecessary. So for today, while you continue to settle closer into your peace and you feel some of the obligations peeling off of you, and maybe you can start to identify some of the characters that you were being compelled to play in this very moment to be more successful, more articulate, smarter, more put together, perhaps even more bold or more controversial. As the caricatures of who you could be continue to peel off, we hope that you can feel that there is a central thread that is actually you, and it is the you without compromise. You have many future selves, but there's only one that is you. This is the truth of this spiritual journey. It is identifying the future self that is actually your truest soul essence and embarking on the journey there, limiting the number of detours along the way from playing anything else. So with that, we encourage you to take some time to explore your own experience, to take some inventory, and to feel into the various trajectories of where your life can go, and to feel how along some of those trajectories, the only thing that calls you is money. And how on other of those trajectories, the only things that call you are the approval of others, the approval of your parents, the approval of your friends, the approval of various networks that you've existed within along the way. And how on some other of those trajectories, the only thing that calls you forward is the ideal of being spiritual and of being, again, accepted within that larger spiritual community, being seen as profound by others, being seen as light and bright by the standards of today, not by the standards of God. But how there is a trajectory, there is a path ahead of you that's often rather simple, that doesn't promise you much, that isn't as flashy, that isn't as immediate, that doesn't hook you as much, that doesn't make you feel lustful towards it, that doesn't make you feel as though you need to be maybe just a little bit more greedy, that doesn't tug on the worst elements of your biology or the most manipulatable elements of your biology, but simply speaks to the truth of who you are at your core. And this path is always undeniable. There's only ever one thing that's actually here in your circumstances. And the more that you tune into this trajectory of the ideal as seen by divinity, the easier and smoother the spiritual path gets. It is the detours that are most painful. The most challenging thing about being on the trajectory of the ideal is simply feeling the loss of the many things you were promised by darkness along the way to manipulate you. It feels as though you are losing out on success, losing out on the approval of others, losing out on a spiritual ideal that you've been searching for many, many years. But truthfully, you never had any of those things. They were promises, they were carrots on the end of a string far, far ahead of you, and no matter how fast you ran, they continued to move deeper over the horizon. Divinity will not promise you these things, but you will also achieve actual things on this path. You will achieve actual peace within your heart. You will achieve legitimate groundedness within your being. You'll find legitimate clarity. And ultimately, you'll find yourself. There's nothing more satisfactory, there's nothing more appealing, truly an experience, than getting to know the truth of who you actually are and feeling yourself be tugged by the world, but being so unshakable that your trajectory is singular. Your trajectory is your life as seen within the mind of God as you interface directly with it through your intuition. We hope for those of you who feel tugged in your life currently, who feel conflicted amongst various doors open to you now, that this can help to sort through some of that. It's often painful to grieve the loss of the things that darkness has promised you, but once you have, you are free. And that freedom will always be worth it, will never feel like a detour, and you can live a life without regrets. So with that, we encourage your continual exploration and send so much love to you. We'll speak to you at a later time. Bye for now.